Welcome to Winning Inside, the show where we follow the journey from feeling defeated to winning. Here are your hosts, Cheddy Matthews and Michelle Wickman.
Hello, amazing people. Welcome to the Winning Inside podcast, where we discuss real issues, insights, and solutions with each other and guests to help you thrive in your day-to-day lives. We know life happens, and we can choose to be a spectator or a participant.
These conversations and stories are about the participants, the ones who made the choice to do the inner work and found a way to keep moving forward.
Michelle, it is so good to hear from you. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I know. Well, it's so funny because we haven't really talked in like a week. We haven't done this in a week because we didn't record last week. Luckily, we had some backup recordings, but we didn't record. And part of the reason was because I wasn't feeling it. I was not in the right mindset. I just didn't have the oomph to do it. So we didn't record because I wanted to show my best foot and kind of, be a little better on stage. So, so here we are. And that brings us to today.
Yeah. No, it's such an important thing to acknowledge because we don't always feel up to task, right? We're not always like, yeah, let's get this done. Oh, I'm so super excited. As much as we enjoy talking to each other, as much as we enjoy conversing about these topics, we don't always want to sit down and do the recording. Sometimes Cheddy and I will get on the phone and we'll talk for an extended period of time about topics similar to this. But at the same time, it's like, well, we probably could have just recorded that. But in reality, we're not always up to task. And when he says he wasn't feeling it, I was not feeling it either. And I think we finally circled back. And let's be real, we have talked. It's not that you and I haven't talked in the last week, but we certainly haven't recorded the things that we discussed to share with you, listener.
And it's bizarre. So today, what are we going to call today's episode?
Yeah. So today is all about motivation.
Yes.
However, one of my favorite Cheddyisms,
I have a few,
that he says to me quite frequently is, and there's a reason why he has to say it to me quite frequently, is screw it and do it. And he says it, say it in the way that you say it to me. Like,
it's got to be contextual, but just screw it and do it.
Just like that. So matter of fact. It's like, I don't understand what the problem is. Just screw it and do it. And then I'm thinking, yeah. What? Yeah. What's taking me so long? So, but there's always going to be an option not to do something. Right?
Oh, wow.com. I mean, I could go through a litany of reasons why we don't do things. And I mean, no matter what it is, it could be, it's cold, I'm sore, I just don't feel like it. And our feels get in the way of a lot of things we want to do. And feelings are fleeting and they come and go. And, like Michelle, you say this a lot, they're temporary, good or bad. They don't stay around for a long time. So if you don't like the feeling you're in, hang out. It's going to change.
Exactly. Yes.
We give that emotion, that thing that's so temporary, permanent, almost like a permanent residence in our mind. And we give it a lot more airplay than it deserves.
Yeah, we allow it to essentially dictate the actions that we take. And the feeling that in this context is motivation, right?
Yes.
Motivation is a feeling. It is a sensation that you are inspired to take action. You're inspired to accomplish something. And oftentimes that feeling is just, it is truly fleeting. I mean, it could last a week, maybe even a month, like New Year's resolutions at times. Exactly. People are motivated. Yeah. I don't think it's even a month. I know it's like 15 days or something like that.
There's a date where they tell you like, this is the day when most people's resolutions have crashed and burned. Like they have it down to a day now.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Exactly. So there's always those reasons, not quote unquote reasons to not to do things.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's rather than seeking, that motivation, we want to talk about mindset. But before we go through that, we want to identify the different sort of tactics that we deploy in order to try to inspire us into taking action. And Cheddy and I talked about a little bit about the concepts of extrinsic and intrinsic motivating factors. So one example is that while I am a group fitness instructor and I know my way around the gym a little bit, I've hired a personal trainer because I have specific goals that while I know I can do the exercises and the activities that I need to do, it is a whole different level when you have a personal trainer telling you what to do and when to do it. And you have paid them to show up at a certain time. And you know, like, I am going to get my money's worth, and I do. So that is an extrinsic motivating factor, that I have hired a personal trainer to help me accomplish my goals.
Beyond that, coaches have coaches. And the fact that you, as a coach, have a coach, I think that says a lot to a lot of people. Take note of that there's no guru here. There's no, I know it all. There's always something to learn. And you really can be challenged and grow to the next step if you have someone that can push or pull you or guide you to that next level. And that's important because sometimes it's important for us to get moving and to move to the next level. A lot of times we realize we don't want to do something, since somehow by whatever means we devise, we do that thing. And then we're glad we did it. Usually once we start, it's fine. But it requires a lot of energy, just like a car. First gear is the most powerful gear in the engine because it requires so much energy to go from 0 to 5 miles per hour. It just takes so much energy and effort. That's why it's important to have motivation, to have some kind of an emotional push. You talked about it earlier, like the serotonin, like the endorphins, the adrenaline, that push to get you going to start. Because once you start, it does become easier. But even in it becoming easier, sometimes you have to follow on and do other things to keep going. So it's important to do that. And if you practice to go, you will go. If you practice to not go and to not do, that becomes the main practice. That becomes predominant, that you form the habit of not doing. And you have to choose which one's going to basically be dominant in your behavioral patterns. And now there's a quote that, Michelle, you like this quote. I like this quote. It's from the amazing Will Smith. And if you want to quote it because you say it better than I do, there's a quote about self-doubt and just the things that hold us back. And whenever you're on the cusp of do or not do, and it's something you should do, here's a quote that might help you get through that.
Well, this speaks a little bit to the intrinsic part too. So it's the mindset part, and we'll get into that as well. But the question isn't, can you handle the situation? The question is, can you handle your mind? Can you manage the thoughts and emotions that are trying to poison your progress? So, and we look at that, and I swear I just said that in like a Canadian accent.
Poison your progress, though. But listen to that. Okay,
I think I've been talking to you for so long.
Sorry. It's contagious. You're infected.
Yeah, it really does boil down to your mind. Yeah. And so even with regard to, motivation, that is a feeling. So that is within your mind. It's a thought that you're having that creates this feeling that you have that inspires you into action. The feeling you have is motivation. The action you take is the tasks that you want to do in order to achieve your goals. And then you get the results that you get, right? Yeah. So it all starts with your brain. And with that, we've identified a few different tactics that I think we mentioned earlier that we sort of deploy in order to sort of get that motivator up and running.
Oh, yeah.
The first one, I want you to handle this one.
Beautiful. I love this one because it's the inner drill instructor.
Yes.
It's the part of you that is yelling at you. And I use this one a lot for myself. And it's probably because of my Marine background and from my track coach. I had a coach, Dennis Cordfield, Unionville High School, was an awesome track coach. And he would wear us out. And he would say things like, excuses are for losers. And if you ask my kids, if I say excuses are, they're going to roll their eyes and say, for losers, Dad. Because I've been saying it for so many years because I got it from my track coach. But it's that forceful yelling, get it done, Cheddy, get up. You got to go. I do that to myself sometimes to force myself to get up. It's a language that I like. I respond to it. But for some people, that doesn't work. But what it uses is it uses fear, intimidation, force, pressure, almost a certain level of forcefulness, violence, which in the military standpoint is great. It's like, let's get it done. But that doesn't always work in other settings. So it's not always a good motivator, depending on who you're dealing with. It works for a certain audience, or maybe if you have a certain temperament. It also works depending on what the situation is. You may need that level of force, but you have to be judicious in when and how to use it, because it sometimes works and sometimes it doesn't.
Very true.
If someone yells at you in a certain way and you're just like, I'm not receiving that, you will power down and just be like, I'm doing nothing. So you have to be very mindful of how that's used and know when to turn that off, because it can be forceful.
And you're using the analogy of sometimes people don't respond to that. So like as if it's an external voice. Now, mind you, bear in mind, this is all self-motivation, right?
Yes.
So there are also trainers that like will yell at you and be like, you know, add more weight, push harder. And you might know your boundaries and your limits with that. But this is internal. And what Cheddy spoke to that I experienced personally for many years was, if you keep employing this inner drill instructor, if you keep leveraging this tactic to motivate you, it can wear you down over time, and it becomes more of a belief system about you not being good enough. So it really taps into the, you know, yeah, you can do it, but it's like the force that's applied. It's the pressure that's applied. It's leveraging fear of unworthiness or not enoughness or that chip on your shoulder. And instead of really tapping into the strengths that you have as part of who you are to continue, you know, to push you into action, to, well, I like saying, pull you forward into action. So there is a delicate balance when you utilize the inner drill instructor, and there is a time and a place for it. And there is a public speaker, author, David Goggins, that I just love.
Oh yeah. He's fired up.
And he's somebody that sounds very forceful and very much like a drill instructor, but it really does come from a place of like, you can do it. And you don't know what you are capable of until you push yourself past that boundary. Yes. So there is a fine line where you teeter into the negative versus staying in the positive within this realm, within this tactic. So just be mindful of that.
Yep.
And the second one,
be the hostage negotiator. Which I love. But Michelle, I want you to talk about that, because I use this one too. I use this one a lot.
Yeah. That's why I was like, you need it.
I could do it, but I use this one a lot. And it's funny because I talk to myself. Cheddy talks to Ched all the time. And I say that, like, I'll be like, Ched, blah, 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 blah. Like, I tell myself, like, Ched, you've really got to figure this out. Tighten it up, Cheddy. Come on, you know why you got to do this. And the hostage negotiator is totally different, because this is your friend. They try to be very non-threatening, almost the polar opposite of the drill instructor. I'm not yelling at myself. I'm talking because I want to focus on reason. I want to focus on kind of I'm your friend. I'm only telling you this because I care. So I'm calm. I focus on the facts. I use reason. I also look at the benefits. Well, if you do this, then hey, and you can fit into those jeans you haven't been able to wear in 2 years. That's personal. Yeah, that's personal. Yeah. If you do this, if you keep doing these ab, then you can get back to doing like 100 crunches in 2 minutes. Come on, you can do this. And I start telling myself things like, if I do this, then there's a result. So I use a lot of logic in that one. And I do focus on the benefits because, you know.
Well, so with this one in particular, you're acknowledging the reasons you don't want to do something. So you're like, yes. I know it's cold outside. I know it's dark outside, but if you go for this 5-mile walk now, you can get it done first thing in the morning. You'll have the rest of your day. So it's like talking yourself through this entire process, right? And to your point, you're focusing not just on the immediate benefits or your goals of like, do I want weight loss? But you're saying there's all these ancillary benefits that you can receive by taking action now and doing the task that you've assigned or identified that you want to accomplish in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So for you, like you talk a lot about like, I love walking first thing in the morning because it's like fresh air. It's not super busy. You go really, really early. So there's not a ton of traffic. All of those things are the ancillary benefits that you receive from
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You're right. And it works for me. And I'll tell you, there are times that I may start my day like, get up, let's go. And I go right into, well, yeah, get up now and I try to switch it up. So I do the whole Jekyll and Hyde thing. I do the good cop, bad cop thing in my own mind. This is how Cheddy motivates himself.
Yeah. We can utilize multiple tactics just to take action on one thing. Like this is how complex the human mind is, right? So and even it's when we talk about goals at another podcast, we talk about breaking down goals into the tiniest steps. And so that first, task, the first step, if you will, is just getting out of bed in the morning, right? And then the next step is getting dressed as if you were going to go work out versus like my first task is do my hour-long, class that after I've driven to the gym. No, it's like literally your first task is just get out of bed. That's it. Oh, yeah. So we're constantly sort of talking ourselves through the next steps. But the third tactic that we identified was bribing the toddler. And I love this one because we all have a toddler brain.
Yes.
We do. I don't want to do it.
Yep.
Yeah, you got to do it.
No.
I don't want to go to work today. No. You have to go to work today.
But I don't want to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the bribing, I mean, we all know for people who are parents, at least.
And aunties.
Listen, and I shouldn't say we've all bribed, but if you haven't bribed a toddler before, then like I literally, if you remember Wayne's World, I would like bow down to you. Just
you're not worthy.
I am not worthy. Because that is amazing. But bribing the toddler is, well, if I give you this, will you then do that? So Cheddy and I unfortunately have a very similar vice, which is candy.
Hey, I'm a reformed candy eater. I haven't had any candy today.
That's great.
Today.
So we oftentimes will bribe ourselves with candy. Like, well, if you get all of this work done, then you can have a candy,
Yes. Yes.
For me, the other thing that I like to bribe myself with is coffee from like a little coffee shop. If you go work out and you hit all the calorie goals that you've got, then on the way home, you are allowed to stop and pick up a coffee. Like I bribe myself with coffee all the time, even though I know I can drink coffee at home still.
It's the reward.
I do.
Oh yeah, we focus on the reward. And that reward can come in so many different ways. It's almost like I call it my 7-year-old reasoning skills when I tell somebody, I'll be your best friend if you do this thing for me. It worked when I was a kid, so I try to do it now. It's trying to give somebody a reward for getting what you want.
Yeah.
It's a motivator. It's not always healthy. You have to monitor that one. It can be very healthy. It can also be very unhealthy. And that's with any of these. It really is. But all we're trying to do is get you to start, because I do believe once you start a thing, it becomes so much easier to do the thing. And like my track coaches say, keeping up is easier than catching up. So once you're in it,
that's about momentum, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, and then, but also we're not focusing on, are we there yet? We're focusing on, wow, look how far I've come. Right. Yes. But that's, again, we'll get into that a little bit later.
The journey.
I know it's always about the journey, but it's about the recognition and the acknowledgement of said journey versus focusing on what we haven't accomplished. It's what we have accomplished. But the last tactic is, and this one is actually, we might have vacillated a little bit between, is this a tactic that we use or is this more of a mindset? And it's kind of both. Because this one we call the inner psychic. It's like, hey, I know myself well enough to know that I ain't going to do it. I'm not going to do it the way that I need to do it. And so I am going to employ or, identify an accountability partner or some sort of accountability process so that it can help keep me accountable to essentially executing the action. So Cheddy is one of my accountability partners, and that comes to some of our coaching programs that we're creating right now.
Yeah.
And I'll tell him I need to answer these questions by Monday. And I know him well enough to know that he's going to hold me to it. Listen, I got a few more hours. All right.
Oh, we didn't get technical. See, I've got to come down with the time for you. I've got it very well.
Similar to the reason why I hire a personal trainer. Can I go lift weights at the gym on my own? 100% I can. Yeah. Will I push myself past that little limit that, no, I'm not going to push myself. I'm not going to see the things that I can't see, in the mirror when I'm focusing on lifting, like those little cues, the people that are going to hold us accountable to bettering ourselves.
Yeah.
So you have looked into the future, you know yourself well enough that you're going to find reasons not to accomplish something. So now you have identified and communicated with an accountability partner to ensure that they will call you out.
Yes. And I'll tell you, because but one thing I like about the inner psychic, it's you being honest with yourself. Like, I'm not going to do this. I don't like it. I'm not feeling it. Nothing about me wants to do it. So therefore, I need to push beyond that and find an external way, extrinsic way to get it done. And like for you, Michelle, it'll be, I'm going to get this thing done because I don't want to let you down. I respect you too much to fail you in that way. If it's important, I'm going to make sure it happens. So, and those are external factors that will sometimes push me beyond my own desire to not want to do something. So it's very powerful if you can find somebody that helps you sharpen your own sword, because they say iron sharpens iron. So if you could find someone that kind of holds you accountable, keeps you on track, and sometimes it can be a little competition between you both. Well, I'm doing it, you're doing it. Let's see who gets further, or whatever it is. But just having that external accountability sometimes will enable us to push beyond ourselves, because we'll do it on behalf of the other person more so than we'll do it for ourselves sometimes. Depends on what it is. But it's good to have that person who kind of pulls you towards what it is you're trying to do, because you don't want to let that person down. And I think that kind of accountability is very powerful. But those aren't the only, those are the four. So I'll just review them real quick. You've got the inner drill instructor. Shut up and get it done. You've got the hostage negotiator. Well, I know you don't want to do it, but think about all the reasons why you should do it. You've got that person. You've got the bribing the toddler, which is really going to be, look, we can go here. We can do this if you do that. You give yourself a reward for doing the thing. So it kind of attracts you to doing it, like a bribe, of course. And then you have the inner psychic. It's not going to happen. So you have to find external reasons or other methods to get it done. And one of the greatest ways to do that is with an accountability partner or some level of external accountability that will hold you to that standard. So those are the four. But then what about other things, Michelle? I mean, there's other things we can do. That's one side of, I guess, a scale. But what if you don't have any of that? What if none of those things are working? What if you have no impetus to do it, and you're not compelled? You don't have an accountability partner right now. You don't, you can keep your candy. I don't want your candy. I'm just not doing it. And no matter how you reason it, it's not coming out. No matter how you yell at yourself, you're like, not getting done today. Because there are times when we get in that mode. Last week would have probably been a good example of that, where it was just like, I'm not recording. Yeah. I don't feel good enough to present myself to the host, to the audience that way. So what do you do?
Well, I'm sorry. My immediate response is like, screw it and do it. Like Cheddy says, screw it and do it. I swear I could just see you on stage just yelling that out.
Maybe I will. Yeah.
And so Cheddy says it that way. There's an author, a public speaker. Her name is Mel Robbins, and I think she has something called the 5-second rule. Have you heard of this? Mm-hmm. And her take on this is, when you have a thought to do something, you do it 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 in those 5 seconds. Because after that point in time, you are actually going to start thinking all the thoughts of like, oh, well, actually, I'm too uncomfortable to do this. Or actually, that's going to, I might fail. I don't think I want to do that. Or, you know what? I am kind of tired. So maybe I'm too tired to go to the gym this morning. All of those things start showing up. So, when that alarm goes off in the morning, instead of feeling into all of the reasons and thinking into all the reasons not to accomplish something, you actually just get up, to screw it and do it. You know what? Now that is sort of an idea around screw it and do it. But even when you take 5 minutes or 10 minutes to snooze, which is what I do every morning, every morning, actually, I still say to myself, just screw it and do it. Just screw it and get up. Like,
that's funny. That's similar to the law of diminishing motivation, where, the longer you wait to start an exercise or an action, the harder it's going to be to do that action. So yeah, what Mel Robbins says makes a lot of sense. And it is really part of the screw it and do it, because when you say screw it and do it, you don't have time for the thought. You say it and you go.
Yep,
and you do that on purpose, because immediately, even as you start going and you're doing it, you're having the thoughts, the doubt thoughts and the questions and all the stuff you just said. You're trying to rationalize why not to do it, because your brain is wired to almost not do certain things. So it's just doing what it does. And you've got to kind of just push beyond that without the thoughts, because you had there's a reason why you were inspired to do a thing. Go with that. Go with that.
Yeah.
And
it's a mantra, the screw it and do it mantra, right? So even as those thoughts are popping up, you just keep repeating it to yourself. You're like, screw it and do it. Put on my shoes. Screw it and do it. Yep. Get my keys. Screw it and do it. Get my water bottle. I'm out the door.
Yeah.
Right.
And think about it. When we didn't want to record last week, we said, I don't feel forward facing right now. However, let's talk about what we're going to talk about and let's get it done. We had that conversation. So even in the fact that we didn't record, we still did a lot of the groundwork for the recording, which I thought was, okay, that was productive, which was great. So we modified and we got it done. And I love the fact that we did that. I love the fact that we did that.
Yeah. So we found the next smallest step in order to move us towards the goal. Right. Yep. And even I think it was yesterday when we were talking about, let's just do it. Let's just, whatever window of time we have tomorrow, let's just get it done and not worry or overthink about how much time it's going to take. And, should we do it Tuesday instead? We're like, no, we're doing it Monday. We're getting this done. So that screw it and do it. Like that is the mantra. It's a mindset for action.
It is.
And to your point, and I love how you say it, it's like as soon as you say screw it, do it, just in a very casual manner, you're in action in that very moment. You got to pick up and make 10 sales calls, cold calls that day. You pick up the phone and do it in that very moment. Not even overthinking it, not thinking about what you're going to say, not thinking about who's going to answer the phone, who's not going to answer the phone, and what kind of message you're going to leave if they don't. Nope. You're just picking up the phone and dialing, and you figure it out as you go.
Because what happens, sometimes we are one thought away, which is one action away from a different life, from a different outcome, a different result. And sometimes it's just starting that thing, doing it, initiating the process, gets you on the way. It gets the wagon down the road, and now you're already on the way to that destination. Whereas if you think about it and you're processing it, that's great because we're thinking human beings, but sometimes those thoughts slow us down and stifle us and we get caught in the minutia, and that's not good. That's not good at all.
So other than that mantra and that mindset for action, we have your goals.
Yes.
And that's kind of like taking you all the way back to the very beginning. But in truth, it's like, what is your goal? Why did you write that as your goal? Why is that important? And so, Cheddy Simon Sinek was notably or is notably sort of renowned for this concept of it starts with why. And so that idea of what is your why?
Yeah.
And holding that in a space and like really just always in your conscious brain of what is my why for having these tasks, for taking these actions. And it's not necessarily going to be applied to all of your tasks that you don't want to do. So like sometimes I just don't want to do the work when it comes to my job. I just don't want to do it, and like, my why is, well, I want to get a paycheck. And my why is, well, whatever your why is, right? That still doesn't sound that sexy and motivating. But for some other things, for some other goals I have, my why is elevated to that place where I'm like, it means that much to me that I actually get into action, whether I feel like it or not, I still take action towards that goal.
Because the end state is much more important to you. It has more weight than the current state that you're in. So you look beyond the fog of the day for the sunshine at the end of the event or the destination, whatever it is you're trying to do. So you focus on that, and that gets you through when things aren't gonna be nice. That gets you through. When my son was joining the Marine Corps, I was like, Cheddy, why are you joining the Corps? And I hope it's not for me or anybody else in the family. It needs to be for you and for your reasons, because it's gonna suck. So it's gonna suck. And when it sucks, and it's gonna suck hard. When it does, you need to have a reason. And if it's me, you're gonna quit, and you're gonna blame me and blame everyone else. If it's you, you're gonna need to find that reason and dig deep so you can keep going. And once he articulated his reasons, I was like, I'm in. Because he articulated, looked me dead in the eye and explained why he's going and what he's doing and what he plans on doing. And when I heard it, it was just like, it was life-changing for me, because I realized, okay, now I'm a fan. Now I'm buying all the t-shirts. Now I got the stickers that say Proud Marine Dad, because I knew he was going to knock it out. Once I knew he had the right reason, nothing's going to stop him. But if he was saying it to make me, I'm going to make you proud, I'd have been like, that's the wrong motivation for this, son. Don't do it for those reasons. And I was glad that those weren't his reasons, because I would have been much more worried with him going through. So yeah. And believe me, I have my reasons, and I have many reasons, many people that I love that are dependent on me. I have parts of me that are dependent on me. The way I see the world means that I need to show up. I am dependent on me, and I have multiple whys. I do. And if I want to see my life's purpose, leaving this earth better than I found it, then I've got to focus on those whys and keep going. And I employ all of the tactics that we've talked about today, all of them in some way, shape, or form. Sometimes I use all of them in combination, but I just do what I need to do to get it going and keep moving and take the next step, get up again when I get knocked down. And I'm not saying it's easy, because a lot of times it's painful and it hurts. But okay, on the other side of comfort is growth. So if I'm a little uncomfortable, I'm growing, and I'm going to put my shoulder into it, put my head down, and keep marching forward, Michelle. I am.
Yeah, I know you will. and you're going to drag me too.
Let's go
behind you.
But okay, you say that. That's
I know,
cute.
I know.
That's cute.
Well,
how many times do you tighten me up?
Well, so
all the time.
That's communication wise, but
Same
that is my. I don't know. That's I focus a lot on communication and language, and the power of language. And so with that being said, even how you write your goals, how you identify your why is all in the affirmative. It's all in the positive. It's not in the negative. And what I mean by that is, if your goal is to lose 50 pounds, and you identify it or you write it down as, I lose 50 pounds because I don't want to be sick and I don't want to die young. And, it's like, we can flip that around and look at it as, and what I had identified, because I have had some significant back pain for many years. And my why for healing that, for working on that, for getting stronger so that I can eliminate a good amount of that back pain, was my why was so that I could play sports with my kid, and that I could connect with on such a deep emotional level. So the language of how we write our goals and the language of how we identify our whys, instead of avoiding something that is distasteful or displeasurable to us, we want to really look at it as the thing that we desire most and the thing that really creates that emotional connection to taking action.
Yeah.
So using language and in a way that can create that emotional connection to it will actually develop the motivation in those small moments, right? And again, we know this is a mindset for action. We know this is another tactic, if you will, but we did talk earlier again about that Will Smith quote, which is, it's not, can you handle the situation, but can you handle your mind? Because what you just said earlier about change is uncomfortable. And as humans, as we are creatures of habit, our brains want to keep us safe. And if we are alive to this point in time, then why change, right? We've managed to keep ourselves alive. Why change now? And so change can get real uncomfortable, and self-sabotage pops up. There's all these other things that we're going to do to sort of keep us back in the same space that we were. And so employing these tactics, identifying the mindsets, identifying your goals, identifying your why, and really working with accountability partners, all of these things to take each little tiny step towards your goal, despite the discomfort, despite the setbacks, despite the failures, is so critical to being able to sort of keep moving forward despite our brains and everything else telling us like, that's too much. You need to stop.
All right. It's inspired intentional action, or intentional inspired action, repeated over and over again. I was watching something and they were talking about, you go to the gym one day, you see no results. You do certain things one time and you see nothing, but you go every day, and after a while, you start to see results. You don't see the results daily, but over time, that sustained activity, intentional activity, yields results. And a lot of times, because we don't stay consistent in doing something, we don't see the results, or we stop before we see them, because we go to the gym, we bench press, and we look at our pecs. I'm like, no change. Oh, this is rubbish. It's not working. Because that's not how it works. Very few things are insta popcorn. Very few things you punch in the microwave for 3 minutes and boom. A lot of things take time to germinate, process, develop, grow, and then all of a sudden it flourishes and produces fruit. But yet we want those things to be instant. And most things aren't like candy. You just take it out of the wrapper and eat it. And yay, well, candy's great. Great analogy. But it takes a little process. And of you doing the same thing, tilling the soil, watering it, tending to it, maintaining it, nurturing it, whatever that is. And sometimes that is uncomfortable. And you have to get comfortable in the discomfort zone. And that is a quote from Dewey Taylor from the Manifestors Guide. Dewey Taylor, I just put a shout out for you because it's pretty awesome. And he will tell you, you've got to be comfortable in the discomfort zone. And the way he says it, I was like, that's interesting. But guess what? It's right. We have to do hard things. And sometimes we have to find a motivator and a reason to do those hard things. And I don't know, Michelle, I see you doing hard things all the time. You're wired that way. I mean, you just are. And it's like, well, if she's going to do it, I'm going to do it too. So it's good to see your example of that, because you do not shy away from the hard and challenging things, which means that, well, I can't shy away from them either. So, I appreciate that leadership in that space and that example, and that, whether you know it or not, that unintentional accountability that you hold me to just by you doing you. So thank you for that. Thank you for that.
Well, thank you too.
Oh, well, good. Well, that was good stuff. Hey, we got it out, even though we were feeling kind of,
it's
low
one of
energy
those things,
last week.
Yeah, it's a topic that we're so passionate about, and it's a topic that we work through every single day.
Every day.
Personally and professionally.
Yes.
And so, there is so intention intention behind it. And our mutual goal is to live a truly intentional life. And a lot of that boils down to, everything that we do every single day, but also not beating ourselves up about it all the time, because we're not going to be perfect ever. And there is, as I mentioned earlier, there's going to be setbacks and there's going to be failures. And it's how you manage that. How do you manage those thoughts and emotions during the setbacks, during the failures? How do you acknowledge the successes that you've had? How do you acknowledge the movement and the momentum that you've created with the actions that you've taken? So I mean, we would love to talk to you about this. This is something that we live for, truly. Goals and motivation, the screw it and do it mantra. I hope you say it to yourself sometime this week. Screw it and do it, and just get into action towards one of your goals.
We'll see you on the other side of that resistance, because that's where your dreams lie. So do it. Really do it. And I just hope one takeaway from this is I hope you understand that we're not gurus here. We're walking this journey as we're telling you, hey, come down this road. You know, it's not something that we're saying we've arrived and we have it all figured out. No, we are figuring it out, because that's how life is. Life is volatile. You stop learning, might as well stop living. So we are ever learning, ever refining, ever developing, and just trying to really hone this practice, really just trying to hone it. And if this helps in any way, any shape, any form, please use it. Use whatever you can in your life. And thank you for that. Well, as they say in movies, right? What is it? That's a wrap?
That is a wrap.
That's a wrap. So thanks for listening today, guys. And if you enjoyed today's podcast, please subscribe, follow, share, and most importantly, use whatever adds value to your amazing life. Remember, even if life puts barriers in our way, we are still moving forward. Sign in each Monday for a new episode of Winning Inside.
Thank you for listening to Winning Inside with Cheddy Matthews and Michelle Wickman. If you enjoyed today's show, please make sure to click the follow button, rate and review at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, or wherever you get your podcast. You can connect with Cheddy and Michelle at winninginside.io. Keep listening. Another episode is coming soon.